Everyone, welcome to Probate in Arizona. I'm Marvin, real estate broker and probate specialist with Night Owl Realty. Today I'm speaking with my friend Rilus of Rilus Law. Rilus, can you let everyone know who you are and what it is that you do?
Hi, Rilus Dana. I'm happy to be here. So I'm a probate attorney by trade. That is my day job. So do estate planning and probate. And part of the reason I connected with Marvin is because I'm also interested in real estate investing as well, too. So those topics go hand in hand, real estate and probate, which is why we're here today together.
Absolutely. So today let's cover, what an estate plan is because there's a lot of people that don't understand what an estate plan is. So can you talk about what an estate plan is and why an estate plan is important to have in Arizona?
Yeah. So what is an estate plan? So let's back up. What is an estate? So
Right?
that's why this can be confusing. So the term estate is used in different ways, like real estate, meaning property, or sometimes if there's a big house, it might say, look at that estate.
Right.
So, but in the term estate planning, estate means something. Really, it refers to everything a person owns, whether alive or dead. So an estate in my world is something is everything something or everything a person owns, whether alive or dead.
Okay.
And the process of estate planning refers to planning what happens when you die,
Right.
which
Exactly.
is something not a lot of people want to talk about.
Nope, they don't.
So there's a lot of people that do not have any type of estate planning done. I think that's the main reason why, right? It's just uncomfortable to talk about. I call it acknowledging your mortality. Kind of
Right.
weird going, man, I'm gonna die.
We all
And
know it, but we never really plan for it.
yeah, I know mortality rate 100%. It gets
Right.
everyone. So it's I I feel like it's worth the extra energy of planning for this. I guess the people don't want to spend any time thinking about that, right? And
Right.
I get that. It's not the most pleasant thing,
Right.
but the payoff is peace of mind, I would say.
Right.
So estate planning is a process of planning for your death, what's going to happen to your assets, and what happens to your family members and loved ones.
Right.
So I would say this becomes important if you have any of those things, right? A, people you care about, and B, stuff, right? If you own anything and have people you care about, that's when you should consider estate planning.
Absolutely.
Now, another misnomer is people think this is only for the rich, right? This is
Right.
something only rich people do, but that threshold of probate is a lot lower than people expect.
Right.
Meaning in Arizona, what it is, if you have 100,000 of equity in your real estate, you'll have to go through probate. So California, it's about 150, but this sneaks up on average people,
Right.
right? If you own a home for just a few years or so, it's really easy to get over that equity amount where your
Absolutely.
family's going to have to go through probate. Now, our last videos, we talked more about probate, what that is, and the timing and process. So if people want to learn more about probate, they can go back to those. But basically, it's time consuming and a pain. Is that kind of the
Right.
summary of it?
That is the summary.
So, but it's a legal process to transfer title of assets from the name of the deceased.
Right.
That's the legal thing, but there's lots of hoops you have to jump through. So usually one of the goals of estate planning is to avoid probate. That's usually the main goal for people. Like if they pass away, they want to make sure that their family and loved ones aren't cursing them for making them go through these extra steps.
Right.
So um, one of the things I love about what I do, I get to meet all types of people. So I just had someone earlier, and sometimes the attitude is it's like, hey, they're getting my stuff, they can pay for it, right? Like, why
Right.
would I pay extra money now? Um, if they want to have my stuff, they can spend the money to get it later. But I'd say more than the money decision, it's about time. It's about the time and hassle that they would have to go through. And then estate planning is also really important for what I'll call if you're not married, right? So if you have a couple together and you're not legally married, so if you don't
Right.
have a legal relationship, the law does not recognize significant other. You know, I get lots of devastating calls from people where their partner passes away,
Right.
and they're never legally married. And they go,
Yeah.
what do I do?
Right. So those
And
people, like you said, should have some type of estate plan set up for in case the inevitable happens. And like you said, if they're unmarried, because that can cause a lot of issues.
yeah, so there you always have a plan. No plan is a plan.
Right.
So
Your
if you
plan.
don't do your estate plan, there's what's called the laws of intestacy. So if you die without a will, a person dies without a will, or if the people they named in their will have passed away, or doesn't control, you look up the laws of intestacy,
Right.
and that's a default order of who the beneficiaries are.
Right.
So that's what I mean. The law does not recognize significant other. So
Right.
those laws of intestacy, if you have a spouse, they'll get part of the estate. If a person has kids from a prior relationship, what happens is half goes to the kids, half goes to the spouse.
Right.
So I get that call a lot. I get, my partner passed away. Maybe they're married, but he had kids from a prior relationship.
Right.
It's like, sorry, that house is half theirs now, because
Now, I've
he did
had
not
that
have.
situation. I've
Yeah,
actually had a client who had that situation. Actually, they were married, but he had a child from a previous marriage, and in that situation, he had basically forced her to have to sell the house.
right. And it's horrible, huh? It's
Right.
devastating,
Right.
because they just lost their partner, and they're a lot of times they're saying, he said he'd take care of me, and
Right.
it's like, ugh, like it's like legally, we got to deal with these kids.
Right. Yeah.
So I've been in that situation many times, and sometimes the kids kind of know the situation and they're willing to sign the house over, and sometimes not, huh?
Right.
Sometimes,
Yeah. Sometimes not. They'll force the issue, and then
yeah,
you have to go to court, and you have to sell the house, or you either have to buy them out. One of the two.
yeah. We had one like that. There was three kids. Two of them right away, gave their interest, but the other one negotiated for about a year, and rightfully so, right? It was
Right.
they're entitled to it.
Right.
So, but the surviving spouse, yes, because they were married, but there's kids from a prior, but she had to uh, sort that out,
Right.
and it was devastating for her because she didn't know if she could afford another house or she could be able to move, and all those things.
Right.
So estate planning, I'd say, is taking control. It's clarifying what your wishes are and making sure what you want to have happen will actually happen.
Right.
So, lots of different ways you can get your estate planning done. And I think we were talking about that too, Marvin. There's, different options you can do.
Right.
And even though I'm an attorney, I still am a fan of the do it yourself. There is a place for that. I'm not going to say that every single person needs to go to an attorney for everything.
Right.
So um, we don't want to do that. So, where an attorney can provide value, just like anything, I often compare it to mechanics. So, like, I could change the oil in my truck theoretically, right?
Right.
I can go online and look up the instructions. I have the tools. I think I have a wrench I can find.
Right.
Um, but I just don't trust myself with that. I'm worried. Um, I'm going to do something wrong, or really, I just don't have the time, and I think I'm going to make a mess. For what it takes to drive through somewhere, it's worth it for me to pay someone to do that.
Right.
And with estate planning, I think it comes down to just what you're comfortable with. So there's
Okay.
people, there's a lot of intelligent people that have the time and are able, to spend that time to find the resources to do like a last will and testament and powers of attorney. And that's something I recommend everyone should have in place. And I'm saying there's lots of good free options, including my website. So you can go to riluslaw.com, and I have a nice template to do a free last will and testament. So it's, everyone should have an estate plan. I want to get rid of the excuses for people, especially those people that are, maybe you're not married, you're living together with someone, or maybe you are married, but there's kids from a previous relationship. So lock in, take care of your people. You can do that by writing out a last will and testament. That's actually in Arizona and California where I practice. That's the easiest way to do a last will and testament is you write it by hand. If you write it by hand, that's going to be controlling.
Right, which is considered to be a holographic will.
There we go. That's the term, holographic, handwritten.
Right.
Valid as long as the material provisions are in their handwriting.
Right.
So at my website, what I've done is I've made a template that people can download where they fill in the blanks. Okay. And the reason I have you fill in the blanks is so that you don't need witnesses and notaries and all those other things.
Right.
So there's a template they can download and some videos where I explain how to fill it out.
Okay.
So that's where it starts. And then if you own, I've had a lot of people lately, and this is just kind of, I wonder if you're seeing this trend, Marvin, as well, but a trend of multi-generation houses. Are you seeing that?
I am seeing that definitely in the real estate. There's a lot of people that are moving into next gen homes because as their parents get older, they need someone to help take care of them. So I am seeing that a lot.
So seeing that trend, and then also this trend too of couples buying houses together.
Yes.
You see that too? Maybe they're not married.
I do see that as well.
But they're buying a house. Yes. So now sometimes these people come to me after the fact, like, hey, we did this, now what do we do? Which at least they're thinking about it.
Right.
But if you do it ahead of time, it's better.
Right.
So if you're buying property together, that's where it gets tricky, especially if you have kids from a prior relationship. So that's where I'd recommend seeing someone like myself that can help design a plan that protects the property that you're bringing into that relationship, right? So if that relationship ends, you want to make sure that you're protected that way. And then also if you die. So in my world, being an estate planning and probate attorney, that's usually where a relationship ends. Someone passes away,
right.
And then how are things getting transferred at that point?
Right. And what would you say would be some of the common documents that are found in an estate plan? I know you talked about last will, and also having a
powers of attorney.
Powers of attorney, yes.
So last will and testament, that says where your stuff goes, basically, and who's going to be in charge. And if you have minor children, that's where you name the guardians of your minor children.
Right.
So you need a will. I recommend that. And then I also recommend a financial power of attorney would be the second document. And you want that to be what's called a durable power of attorney. What that means is that it's still valid in your incapacity. And that's usually when we want it valid. So usually I do what's called a springing power of attorney, meaning that if two doctors say you're unable to manage your affairs, then someone can take over your finances, but not until then.
Right.
Because you don't want to give that authority away unless you need to.
Right.
So that's the financial power of attorney. And then the last document, the third one, it's actually a few combined in one. So we do a healthcare power of attorney and a mental health care power of attorney and a living will all in one document.
Okay.
So healthcare power of attorney, so who can make decisions for you in the event you're unable to. That also has some HIPAA disclosures, okay. So they can tell your agent your medical information. And then mental health, you can, if your health declines, you can allow your agent to get you treatment. And the living will is the pull the plug one. That's how I describe that one. If you're a vegetable, you can tell them that you don't want CPR and all those things.
Okay.
So that's the basics of an estate plan. So will, healthcare power of attorney, financial power of attorney. And then if you have assets, a trust is recommended in Arizona and California as a way to pass your assets without probate.
Okay.
Um,
Thank you, Rilus. Is there any other information that you would like to share today?
Thanks for having me. So, it's great to be thinking about these things, not the most pleasant things, but just do it, get it over with. So that
Right.
way, I, my theory is that, the time that it takes, spending about your death to plan for it, it's worth it because that gives you peace of mind that you don't have to worry about it, in the event something ever happens to you or your loved ones.
Right.
And I know sometimes it's we don't think about these things until we're faced with something, or maybe you lose a friend or something, and it makes you go, "Oh my gosh,"
Right.
and
I have to get my
I'm human
affairs in
too.
order.
So
Exactly.
yeah,
So I know you already said your website, but could you say again, if for someone want to utilize your services, where can they reach out to you at?
yeah, they can go to riluslaw.com, and there's a resource there for a free last will and testament, and my challenges too is less than 10 or 15 minutes as well. So
Right.
if you got a printer, you can print that bad boy out and have an estate plan in like 10 minutes.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
thanks, Marvin.
All right. Thank you, Rilus.
We'll see you next time.